Boxing truth here. Billy Joe Saunders just looked like complete trash in this showcase fight against Akavov that it was about a year in the making for it to take place. It took forever for this bum fight to happen, and as a result, Billy Joe Saunders goes life and death with a handpicked opponent. Looked absolutely terrible in this fight. I didn't watch the whole fight. I watched it from round 5, and after 8 rounds of the action that I did get to see, I had Akavov ahead 5 rounds to 3. So Billy Joe Saunders very may well have gotten a gift decision, a hometown home cooking decision, simply because it was on his network, Box Nation. He's the guy that's in position for big fights in the future. He's also the WBO champion, which is in Frank Warren's pocket. And the scorecards were predictable. The decision was predictable. Akavov needed to knock Billy Joe Saunders out to even get a draw in this fight, but in the 8 rounds of action that I did see, I had Akavov winning. I mean, Saunders just looked terrible. He didn't look like himself. He was a shell of himself. That's not the Billy Joe Saunders that I'm used to seeing. He was flat. He had nothing on his punches. The speed wasn't there. He looked lethargic. He just looked like a dead man. Like the type of training camp he had pretty much depleted him by the time he entered the ring. It seemed like he had a training camp where he was just trying to lose weight. It wasn't a training camp when it came to boxing preparations or preparing for an opponent, just simply boiling down to 160 pounds. I've noticed that Billy Joe Saunders balloons up in between fights heavily. In one of his fights before he won the world title, he weighed at 170 plus pounds. So, from what I gather, the guy comes down from a very high weight and coming off a year layoff, bullshitting around, and going into the ring with the way he looked terrible. Physically, he didn't look good at all. Didn't look like he was in great shape. And as the fight wore on, he ran out of gas. Had nothing left in the later rounds. Lost the last 2 rounds on my card in the 8 rounds that I did get to see. And it was predictable, the decision. I mean, it's becoming just routine. I'm becoming immune to this shit because of, boxing is bullshit. I mean, I was watching a Precise video recently, and he asked the question, why does this keep happening? Why does the guy who is better not getting the decisions when he deserves it? Simply because of the politics and because this guy's the A side or this guy has more upside. Why can't the guy who does better in the fight, whether he's the A side or not, get the decision? Because boxing is bullshit. Paul Malignaggi wasn't lying when he got jobbed in his first fight against Juan Diaz in Houston. Boxing is bullshit. That's why Jason Sosa didn't get the decision against Nicholas Walters. He got a draw. That's why Diego Chavez didn't get the decision against Timothy Bradley. He ended up getting a draw. That's why Kovalev, despite thoroughly beating Ward, couldn't get the decision. That's why Felix Sturm didn't get the decision against Oscar De La Hoya. That's why Vanis Martirosyan didn't get the decision against Arislandi Lara in the rematch. Because boxing is bullshit. It always has been. There's just too many politics. There's too much fuck shit going on around in the sport. We can't get any fair fights, fair decisions. Especially when it comes to an opponent where he's in position for bigger fights and a lot of upside in the future. You get this type of decision. Now, I didn't watch the whole fight, but from what I saw, Billy Joe Saunders did not win the fight. He looked terrible. He was totally off, was a shell of himself. I'm not saying that that's the best of Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, it wasn't. He wasn't sharp. He wasn't fast. The footwork wasn't there. He was flat. He simply had a training camp where he was trying to lose weight. And as a result, he was completely drained or completely depleted of his energy by the time he entered the ring. Not making excuses for Billy Joe Saunders. That's just the way he looked. That's not the way he looks in the past. He looks much more fluid, much faster, much more on his toes in the past. But tonight he just didn't have it. And as a result, he can thank Frank Warren and the judges for giving him that home cooking decision. But I'm just getting tired of fights heading into the scorecards because it's complete bullshit when it heads to the scorecards when it comes to this type of fight. A showcase fight for bigger opportunities in the future for the A-side fighter. In this case, Billy Joe Saunders. Boxing needs to do better, man. When it comes to these type of decisions, the Gassiev-Lebedev decision, I have no opinion on that. I didn't watch the fight, only watched the last 2 rounds. But from what I gathered from the Twitter timeline, it was truly a close fight that could have went either way. I only was able to catch the last 2 rounds. I gave the 11th round to Lebedev, and I gave the 12th round to Gassiev. By the time I tuned in, those guys looked pretty much done. They had no energy left after what I heard was a grueling fight between the two. But Saunders, his stock just dropped. He better get that cash out payday immediately because it just doesn't seem like he's going to be able to make the middleweight division safely anymore where he'll have any energy coming into the ring. He's already pushing for a Eubank rematch. It makes no sense why he keeps offering that fight to Eubank Jr. It should be the other way around. Jr. should be the one begging for the rematch, but yet it's Saunders and his team that keeps pursuing that fight. It makes absolutely no sense. They're even upping the offer to Eubank. Now they've offered him 7 figures, but Eubank is not going to take that fight because it's too many damn egos for that fight to happen. Eubank feels he's a bigger star, he's a bigger name, and he has a point. Saunders just fought in front of, 100 people? There was practically nobody there. There was no atmosphere. It was a joke of a fight, and he looked terrible. Possibly, he lost in the 8 rounds that I saw. I don't see how you couldn't give Akavov 6 rounds. But because the fight was on Box Nation and because Saunders was the A-side and in position for bigger fights in the future, he got the nod. And it was routinely as well. 116, 112, 116, 113. But, it's pretty much a routine decision when it comes to boxing. Wasn't even surprised. Didn't even have a reaction. I didn't watch the whole fight, but I felt Saunders lost. He didn't look good. He knows he didn't win. He looked terrible. You could just tell by a fighter's body language if they felt they won or not. And Billy Joe Saunders' body language after that fight told the whole story. But he escapes with the win. He gets the nod on his home soil. Well, being the A side of the promotion. The fight was in Scotland, I believe. That's not his hometown, but it's pretty much on his territory. Let's put it that way. But joke of a fight, terrible performance by Billy Joe Saunders. Struggles in a showcase fight. Definitely not any closer to any pound for pound lists, and be thankful to Frank Warren and your team, Saunders, and for having that fight on your territory, because if it wasn't, that fight was in America or any neutral site, Akavov would be the WO middleweight champion of the world. But y'all let me know what y'all think. How y'all scored the fight? I don't see how you can score it wide for anybody. I mean, but from what I saw, I felt Akavov deserved it. He was the ring general. He landed the bigger shots. He was the guy who had more in the gas tank in the championship rounds. And he was cherry-picked for Saunders to look good, but it almost became a cherry-pick gone wrong. But luckily for Saunders, he escapes with the win. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.